first, Michelle Juan Safi. Bushra Banatman. Felice Arslan. And Nigat Quadri. And doing our henna demonstration is Esma Arslan. She's the daughter of Felice. We are so honored to have you come and participate in the events of the day. A very warm welcome to all of you from the Manoa Mosque. We are truly delighted to have you among us. And now I'm going to turn the program over to Wendy Umori, who will explain a little about the handouts you received earlier, and she will also introduce Michelle Juan Safi.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Wendy, and I hope each of you received a handout. These handouts are like gold for the information they contain. The first page will acquaint you with the four wonderful ladies that Sharon just introduced: Michelle, Bushra, Felice, and Nagat. The second handout is a glossary of Muslim terms and phrases which will be useful, as many of the terms we hear this morning may be unfamiliar. I'd like to thank Felice and Michelle for their very thoughtful contributions to this glossary. And now I'd like to say a little bit about Michelle and our first impression of her. Michelle was so kind to come to our temple. Back in April, she met with our planning committee, and she described her path in becoming a Muslim and noted that even after one becomes a Muslim, one continues on the spiritual path to a deepening of faith. Then she spoke about elements of the Islamic faith that truly resonate within her. She was so articulate and so sincere, we just sat there in awe. And then we said, Michelle, you must share this with our ladies, our Buddhist Women's Association. And she agreed to do so. We are so fortunate to have Michelle speak to us this morning. Michelle?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I don't know that I can live up to Wendy's introduction, but I will try. Yeah, I think that's good. Can you all hear me? Okay. She asked that I share with you my spiritual path. Maybe I'm a bit different than most in that I was not born a Muslim. I am from Vermont, probably 10 generations of Vermonters, always been a New Englander, and grew up in a Christian family. And we were not really one that was strong in our religion, in that we did not, my mother sent us to Sunday school, and we did go to church at Christmas time or Easter for the major holidays, but we really did not go to church on a weekly basis. But I always felt a longing for something, a deeper connection. There was always something missing for me. And my path brought me from Vermont to Rhode Island. That's where I went to college. That's where I met my husband, who was from Morocco. And I had started to search prior to meeting him, but I will have to say that meeting him also introduced me to Islam in a way that I had not ever known it. And what felt comfortable for me in Islam was that there was a lot of familiarity, there was a lot of similarities between the Christians and the Muslims, but the difference being in how we view Jesus. As a Muslim, Jesus is revered as a prophet, but not the Son of God. And for me, that made much more sense, and it was much easier for me to embrace that concept. And so from there is when I started to do my research, and it resonated to my heart. It spoke to me. It was almost as if I was always supposed to have been a Muslim, but I didn't come to it until I was 25 years old. Islam means peace, and I know that, you know, today there's a lot of images of Islam that are 180 degree different than what it really represents. And what one needs to understand is that there is no mistake in Islam. Islam is pure, it is peaceful, it is loving, it is caring, it is taking care of each other. But when man practices the faith, he can distort it. And it's through the practicing of culture and not understanding one's faith that it does get distorted and ends up with a bad reputation. So Islam in itself does mean peace. One of the biggest things in Islam is understanding one's intention. Everything in Islam is about your intention. You can understand the requirements of Islam, you can practice it as it is intended to be practiced, but if you're not putting the intention behind it, you're only benefiting from the actual action. Meaning that, for example, something so minor as this. Just to give you an example of how everything in Islam is about your intention. So if you're going to go to morning prayer, which is around 5 a.m., so you go to the mosque for morning prayer. And at home you make what they call wudu, which is the ablution. It's the washing in a particular manner in which to present yourself before God to make your prayer. One of the things that we do is we brush our teeth. Okay. So everybody brushes their teeth in the morning, so you get the benefit, the health benefit of brushing your teeth. And you get so that you did a good deed, you get that benefit. But if you then stop before you brush your teeth and you say, I am to yourself, you make the intention that not only am I brushing my teeth because it's out of habit and it is something that is biologically good for myself, it is also proper, what the word adab in Islam means, the proper manners. Like I'm going to go and pray in line next to people. And when I turn my head to say Assalamu alaikum to end the prayer, I'm breathing on another person. So if I've thought about that before I've gone and I've brushed my teeth with the intention of going to the mosque, then I get the extra benefit of having made that intention. So the reason I bring that up is because that's such a small thing, but everything in Islam has an intention. So it's truly about being connected at every juncture in your day, every thought process that you have. It's about connecting to Allah, who is the Arabic word, Allah is the Arabic word for God. So you'll see in your glossary that it says that even Christians in Arab countries, when they are in their churches, they pray to Allah, because Allah just means God in Arabic. So truly, that is the basis of our faith, is the intention, being connected in your moment, being connected presently in the now, and understanding that every action has a consequence, whether it be good or bad, and it brings you down a path, wherever that path may lead you, but it all comes from decisions you've made with whatever intention you've put forth. There's a word in Arabic called taqwa. Taqwa is being conscious and cognizant of Allah, being aware, being truthful in your path. And that's a big focus in Islam, is your taqwa, being connected to Allah. And so when back to how I embraced Islam, it was not one where that I one day decided to be Muslim and I took what they call the Shahada. Shahada is how you become a Muslim. It is just making a statement. It is between you and Allah that says that you believe that there is only one God and that Prophet Muhammad is his prophet, right? So then that is how you become Muslim. But it wasn't like overnight, then I prayed the 5 times a day, that it's a requirement, and it's not like I wore the headscarf. This is called a hijab, right? But hijab is much more than just a headscarf, although that is what most people understand hijab to be, is the scarf that you see Muslim women wearing. But hijab covers more than that. Hijab means a protection. It's a protection between, Allah's protection for you between you and the outside world. It is a requirement that we cover, dress modestly, our face, our hands, and our feet can show. There are women that practice beyond that, you may see them wearing, the covering that's called a niqab. It covers up to their eyes. I know it can be a little bit scary if you've not been around somebody who's doing that, but truly somebody who's doing that with the right intention is doing that for more modesty, to keep them separated from, the outside influences and keep them closer to Allah. But I didn't embrace all of that all at once. That was not my path. It was over time. I learned what Islam was. Becoming Muslim is not an easy thing to do. It's not, when you're a teenager, you're not dreaming of how could I go and learn how to fast for, during Ramadan, which is 30 days, 29 or 30 days out of the year. And you're fasting from sunrise to sunset, which means no water and no food. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun, right? So that wasn't a lifelong dream. So it's not easy to be a Muslim. You have to be one that's truly connected to your Creator in order to follow some of the rules of Islam. It's not that it's difficult to understand. It just takes a lot of discipline to do that. And then wearing hijab was not an easy thing to do. That was something that took time as well. But I'm getting, I guess, a little bit ahead of the story. So when I became Muslim in my family, and I married my husband, my family was not really accepting of that. They were fearful. They had not known any other Muslims. I grew up in an environment that is very non-diverse. I grew up there were more cows than there were people in the town I grew up in. So for me to do that was very frightening, and it was at the time that Sally Field's movie, Not Without My Daughter, came out, and my mother was suddenly scared that my husband was going to take me to Morocco and kidnap me. So there was a lot to overcome there as well. So at that time, like I said, I did not wear hijab. But there was a time, and it was right after 9/11. So I was here, our path brought us here. Just kind of diversing a little bit, we talk about a path. What I mean by that, I guess, is that in Islam we believe that there is always a record of your good deeds as well as your bad deeds, and at some point in our life we're going to stand before Allah and be held accountable for what we did well and what we did not do well. And when we talk about it being written in the book, it is, our fate is written in the book, but what is not understood, I think, is that, this is our test. We believe that our time on earth is our test from Allah. We're here to see how we're going to behave in this life, what we're going to do with the life we've been given, what kind of gratitude we have for being born. If you think about how miraculous it is that each one of us is alive, that out of that nanosecond that you were created, it's such a miracle, it's such a gift that you were given life. So what are you going to do with it? So in our belief, we are given free will, we choose. But Allah doesn't have time, so the concept of time is foreign to, He knows what it is that we've already chosen, so it's written in the book because He knows what we've chosen. But we do have free will. We've chosen this, and we're responsible for our choices. So it is our path. We can change it, and whenever we decide that we're not doing what we need to be doing, we're not destined to be who it is we are today. We have the free will to change and become better should we choose to do so. And so I believe my path brought me to Hawaii, and for several reasons. One was I met a very good friend here who had a strong influence on me, and right after I had been wearing hijab but not to work. I still had fear of wearing it to work, that I would be ridiculed, and I never was one that liked to have attention brought to me. I didn't like to stand out and be different, and hijab is supposed to help protect and not make you stand out. And in a country where there are a lot of Muslims, it would do just that. You would blend in and not stand out. But in a country where there's not very many Muslims, and certainly even the Muslims that are here may not be practicing, so you don't see that many what we call hijabis. So it was very uncomfortable. I was the only one at work, and I was fearful. But being in her company, I found that, that whole adage about, you are the company you keep was very important to me, because it was through her not ever judgment, which is what I love about Islam. It's not supposed to be a judgmental religion. Your path with Allah is your path with Allah. There is much to clean up on my side of the street. I certainly don't need to worry about what somebody else is doing or not doing. It is what I'm doing and my accountability with Allah. So if I can stay in my path, on my track, I don't need to worry what everybody else is doing. And so, but being under that influence was very helpful. So then I started, then it was right at 9/11, I decided, when many women decided to take it off out of fear of how they were being treated, I realized that maybe my path with Allah was for me to put it on. Because I don't speak with an accent. Most people were shocked when I would speak, because how can you speak English with no accent? And I was educated and I was a professional, and so it went against a lot of what their beliefs were. And so I felt it was really my duty, my responsibility, that I stand up and I be a representation for my faith and to make a difference one person at a time. It's a big responsibility because, you know, you don't have, at least I don't believe I have the freedom to just react however it is that we call them nafs, which is like your spirit, however it feels like reacting. You were insulted me, I can insult you back. No, I can't, because I represent. And I know I do that when I wear this scarf on my head. I have told everybody who looks at me who I am. And now I have a greater responsibility to show you that Muslims are kind, and they can be very gentle, and that so I know that you may never interact with another Muslim your entire life. I may be the only one you ever interacted with, and if I've behaved poorly, then I have damaged the entire religion. And so I understood that. So it was a big responsibility, and I said, I can't shy away from this. I must put it on. I must find the courage to do that. And I did that with the help of Allah. I did that. But you know, what's funny is today, and everybody was staring at me. Everybody, or so I believed, right? I mean, I'd walk out and everybody's staring at me. I was very uncomfortable. And as time went on, I realized that it was the most empowering thing I had ever done. It is not oppressive to wear the hijab for me. It is empowering beyond words. I learned to not care what other people thought. I learned to understand that my behavior, my actions, my words were between me and my Creator. And if I could stand before my Creator and I could stand there with a clear conscience that I've been kind and gentle and nice with other people, then I would be okay. And so to not care about what other people thought was very empowering. And you know, today when I walk out, I don't know who stares at me. But you know, the funny part is that the same people that stared at me 20 years ago, 15 years ago, are the same people that stare at me today. I just don't see them. So they didn't change, I changed. And that, to me, was really empowering. I think I've gotten way off my cards here. I wanted to talk a little bit about gratitude and how that in Islam, gratitude is very important. One gives gratitude for everything that we have, even things that we don't perceive to be positive. If we believe that we wanted something in our life and we've asked Allah for it and we've prayed about it, and then you get something that's not what you asked for, the teachings are that we're still grateful. You're always grateful because you don't have the whole picture. You only have your own perception, your own perspective of the situation. You don't have the entire picture, the big picture. So what is being given to you, if you're grateful for it, later, oftentimes I found in my life, I look back and I can see why it wasn't given to me or why a different path was exposed to me. Something I wouldn't have had any way of knowing, but by being grateful at all times, it limits the amount of space that I have for complaining and being negative. Gratitude opens you up to be very positive and just appreciative of the fact that Allah woke me up this morning. There are people that weren't woke from their sleep. My poor children get these life lessons all the time, every morning. When I text them and I say, what are you doing today with this beautiful day that Allah has given you? He woke you for a purpose. What is your purpose today? I know. But I really believe that, though, that today is going to be gone, and I won't get it back, and it's one day less that I have on this earth to make a difference. So what am I going to do with my today? It's important. So gratitude is very, very important. some of the questions that were asked of me is what is the woman's status in Islam? Many people feel that women that wear hijab, women of Islam, are oppressed. But as I said to you earlier, it is not. It's a matter of your perception. It's a matter of your attitude, if it's your choice. If you have chosen to wear hijab, then it's a very different situation than a woman who's been forced to wear it. When you are wearing hijab, you force the world to deal with you as an individual. It's who I am, not what I look like. You know, I take away that being objectified, you know, by being able to wear my hijab and to interact with men in the professional world. A lot of times people are of the understanding that men and women don't interact, but that's not true. There's just what they call adab, again, which is what the manners are, the Islamic manners. There is a rule for every situation. When men or women are working together, which we are encouraged to do, there's an adab, which means that you don't openly stare at the opposite sex, because the window the eyes are the windows to your soul. That's where you make that connection. So you lower your gaze. But it's not just the female who's required to lower her gaze. A man is required to lower his gaze. And men are required to treat women with respect. They're revered in Islam. If you look at the history of Islam, a lot of the scholars are female. And I may have am I gone past my time? Okay. So I think I've covered most of my path in Islam. Is still ongoing each day that I get up. Like I said, I try to learn something new. I try to be better than I was yesterday. And we really try to be in the moment, focused on why I'm here, what it was that I was supposed to bring, even like to this event. What was I supposed to bring to it? And prepare for it, but then let it go and understand that I don't control the outcome. It's not up to me what you take away from it. It's up to me how I deliver it, how I present myself, but what you take away from it is not my business. I can't control that. And coming to that is a journey. You know, the other reason I believe I was brought here is, you know, in my family, I have 3 beautiful children. There are 2 are at UH and 1 is a junior in high school, and they were adopted. They're all siblings, and we adopted them when they were very young. And I believe that was my path. I believe the reason I didn't have biological children was because Allah was creating that environment for me to open my arms, my husband and I, to open our arms to 3 children that needed us at that time, that I might not have been able to do had I had my own children. So instead of, you know, having that whole regret and feeling sad and why me, why couldn't I have biological children, I am so grateful that I wasn't ever given that gift, because I don't think I'd have the gift that I have today, which is 3 beautiful children that have, and you know, my daughter is here today. I was reluctant to talk about it because we don't really talk about her being adopted, because that's not our relationship. She is my daughter as if I gave birth to her, as are her brothers. And I don't think that there's any greater gift that Allah could have given me than to have selected me to raise them. And so that's my path. That's how I got here. And thank you for listening to me.
Amazing, right? Thank you, Michelle, for showing us so much about what your path has been like, for telling us about your life and sharing your path. You've helped us see how being a Muslim defines every part of your life, and it's who you are and how you live. Right now, we will be moving on to the next part of our program.